الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبارئ الخلائق أجمعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على شمس الهداية واليقين حبيبنا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. أما بعد، أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولو آمن أهل الكتاب لكان خيرا لهم منهم المؤمنون وأكثرهم الفاسقون. صدق الله العظيم. Beloved sisters, brothers, children in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a very significant statement in the Holy Quran. He says, وَلَوْ آمَنَ أَهْلُ الْكِتَابِ. And if the people of the book, to us it means the Jews and the Christians, if they believed, لَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُمْ. It will be the best for them. مِنْهُمُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Amongst them you will find those who are righteous and good and faithful. وَأَكْثَرُهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. But most of them are perverted transgressors. Now when we speak about the Jews and the Christians, there's always a fringe that is righteous, who are good. Some Jews are good. Not all Jews are bad, but most of them are bad. That means over 51% are bad. And there are people under 51%, maybe 1%, 2%. Over 51% may mean up to 99%. But there are good Jews. And most of them are perverted transgressors as far as the Ahl Kitab is concerned. Now we have seen, in South Africa we have got a person by the name of Cassels. He is a Jew but not a Zionist. We have Stephen Friedman, Jew, not a Zionist, and fighting the cause of the Muslims and Christians of Palestine. We find Chomsky, the great philosopher who's a Jew now. He's a Jew, but he speaks out. There was Israel Shahat, a rabbi, who was against the Jews and what they said and what they did. So there are good amongst them, but most of them are perverts and transgressors. And we see Ahlul Kitab, the Jews and the Christians, getting together and declaring the state of Palestine at the United Nations. That was in the late 40s, in 1948, it was created. And now, when a separate state, however illegitimate it is, because we believe in one state, there is no such thing as Israel and Palestine. The whole place belongs to the Muslims and the Christians and the Jews, if they are from there, of Palestine. There is only one state. But even at this very United Nations, when it was declared that we want the recognition of a separate state of Palestine, then Obama and the Jews opposed it. Because the Nasara, the Ahlul Kitab, the Yahud and Nasara, ba'duhum awliya'u ba'd. They are the friends and the allies and the helpers and the protectors of each other. The Jews, and today there is very little left in the Christian, very little. of Sayyidina Isa and the compassion and the love, they have all been Judaized. They have moved away from true teachings of Sayyidina Isa. As you will see, that when something happens in America in favor of the Jews, then you find a very big majority with the evangelists backing Israel and wanting the destruction of not only Palestinians but all the Muslims. So they are بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. They are the friends of each other. But there are good people amongst them. There are good Christians. There are good Jews. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows them. There are always good amongst people. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina and he told that I am in your book, he told the Jews, most of them knew it is the truth because he was in the book. And people like Abdullah bin Salam and other learned people of the Jewish faith declared La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So they declared this state. They declared this state after being persecuted in Europe. Not for nothing. Not for nothing. They have been in the teeth of they had their teeth in the economy of every country. They were the biggest money lenders. Those of you who have any literature and have read Shakespeare will read about Shylock in The Merchant of Venus, the Jew, and how Shakespeare describes the Jew. Of course, the Jews will not like it. If they had their way, they will ban this book, The Merchant of Venus, as being anti-Semitic. We are Semitic. Everyone who is connected to the Arabs, we are Semitic. Everyone who is connected to the Jews, we are Semitics. All the children of Ibrahim alayhi salam are Semitics. But they say they are Semitic. And you are anti-Semitic. Because truth, in Europe, Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther, a few hundred years ago, read his works. He says, burn them, these Jews. And so many others. We never said anything like that. The Muslims never said anything like that. In 1,000 years, go into the history of the Jews and the Muslims, there hasn't been a single riot between us and them. As a matter of fact, we have been their protectors. And up till today, you found Marlon Brando, a top actor. He says Hollywood is ruled by the kikes, K-I-T-E-S. They call the Jews the kikes. They don't like them, really. They are forced to like them. And we find that so many people, when they talk about them, they have funny names for them. For instance, when you look in the dictionary, now they may have taken it out, because the Jews got a power over all the printing presses. Jew, the meaning of Jew, Jew means to cheat. In the dictionary, to cheat. Don't Jew me. That's what it meant. Because every Westerner knows and knew up till today that Jew means to cheat. I know. When I was a little boy, I was at a shop in Grey Street in Durban, selling things, and the poor customer, the Zulu customer, wants me to make cheap something. I said, no, icona, I can't do it. So he tells me, Jew, you're a Jew. You're a Jew. He's telling me Jew, you're a Jew. Now, this is how low they were in everybody's eyes. But we never called them any of these names. Ask them what name they like best. Ask these Jews what is the best name. What is the name of the state that they have now? What is it called? What is it called now? No, what is the state that they live in now? Israel. They like it the best name. So what do we call them? Ya Bani Israel. We call them by what they like. Not, we don't call them kite. We call them what they like. We say Ya Bani Israel. Oh, children of Israel, the Quran calls them. We say Ya Bani Israel. We never insulted them. But read about what the Jews have to say about the Arabs. These camel eaters, these this, that, filthiest language against them. They haven't used it. Never been, never. In 1,000 years, we have never had one clash with them. Never. But they have been the wandering Jew. The Jew has been wandering all the time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, ضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الذِّلَّةُ أَيْنَمَا سُقِفُوا إِلَّا بِحَبْلٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَحَبْلٍ مِّنَ النَّاسِ. And they have been stamped with disgrace and ignominy wherever you'll find them, except when Allah lends them a robe and man lends them a robe. People say, yes, all right, let the Jew live. Not out of their own. You can see now, it is Obama, the black man in the White House, who's giving them a robe, who says, no, I'm going to veto this state of Palestine. I'm going to veto it. I'm going to allow it to be, because man is doing it, not Allah. And they say, you ask a Jew, how do you claim this land? He says, we've got the title deed. They'll show you the Bible. God has given us this land openly. So often on the TV you say, our title deed is this. Who gave you the title deed? God. Who's God? Allah. What is Allah? Kun fayakun. He says be and it is. So if He gives you a title deed, He doesn't give you the land. What type of Allah is yours? How come you're still fighting for it? How is it that you are building your settlements on occupied land? And you know, إِلَّا بِحَبْلٍ مِّنَ النَّاسِ. People lend them a rope and say, right, you live on. The press is against us. It's against the Muslims, it's against Palestine. I said occupied land. They say disputed land. They make us, no, you know where they're building? Disputed land, not occupied land. And they make us believe that it is disputed. It doesn't belong to the Palestinians. The press is against us. I wrote a letter to the press concerning apartheid in Israel. Goldstein, he said that there is no apartheid in Israel. I said, go and ask any Palestinian if there is or not. Every Palestinian will say there is apartheid. Like during the time of apartheid here, everyone will say that there was apartheid here. And they make that size of letter of mine, small letter. Because the press is on their side. If anything happens, anything to do with the Jew is put into the middle pages. Because إِلَّا بِحَبْلٍ مِّنَ النَّاسِ. The press lends them a hand and a robe. And not only that, we do it as Muslims. When you see something wrong that the Jew has written or done, we sit down. Oh, let them be, let them be. So we are giving them a robe. We Muslims. And sometimes with myself, I say, I'm a coward. Ask yourself what you are. We are cowards. We don't stand up against them when something wrong happens. Go to the Israeli embassy and say, come, let's march. How many people come from Pretoria? I want to know. Busloads come from Johannesburg and so on. We tell live, Jew live, kill our brothers, kill. We give them haqq. You know that when you drink Coca-Cola, that so much of the money percentage goes to Israel. You tell a chap, we told one dentist, Muslim, you mustn't drink Coca-Cola. Oh, I can't live without it. I can't live without Coca-Cola. Muslim dentist can't live without Coca-Cola. Damn it, drink Coca-Cola, drink the blood of the Palestine child who has been killed and murdered. Drink, go and drink. Muslims talk fat lot about giving your blood, you drink the blood of the Palestine child. That's us. So we give them the robe. إِلَّا بِحَبْلٍ مِّنَ النَّاسِ فَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. And they deserve the curse and the wrath and the anger of Allah. وَضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَسْكَنَةِ. And they will be homeless. And we say, no, there's a state of Israel. Is it there? As I said, there is no state of Israel. Everyone says that there is no state of Israel. The United Nations declared years ago that they had to withdraw that Israel and Zionism is racist. They said that. And when Dr. Malan, the nationalist prime minister, came back from Israel, he said, rich Jews make poor whites when he came to this country. Rich Jews make poor whites. Our own prime minister, South Africa, they've forgotten it because they know how to buy you off. They know how to buy the rope. But inshallah, they'll hang themselves with it very soon. And then Farhood went to Israel and he came back, and it is documented in the Daily Mail. Israel, like South Africa, is an apartheid state. And this is exactly what I wrote in the letter which they took out. And this is because the press lends them the hand, everybody, and I said the Muslims lend them a hand. And when you go deep, even the Saudis help the Yahudis. Have a look. Whose developments are those in Makkah, those big towers and hotels? Whose developments are those? Dwelling in the house of Allah, you look from the door. Tell them about the story of Abraham. It'll get hold of the Saudis who are allowing this type of nonsense to happen in the holy house. Tall clock. What are we going to do with that? The beauteous, the most beautiful thing on earth is the Kaaba. You want to outdo it? Abraham wanted to outdo the Kaaba, wanted to destroy the Kaaba. They want to do the same thing. Really, but Muslims, no, I'm all right, Jack. Yes, Jews are bad. Yeah, poor Palestinians. Muslims, what are you, man? Muslim, you have committed yourself. You are in or you are not in. I don't say like, push you out of it. You can't be out. Even one word that you believe in Allah, you are saved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, we have always been good to them. In Europe, every Easter, they used to lament the death of Isa, that he was hanging on the cross. By whom? By the Jews. So suddenly, they used to go to the ghettos where the Jews live. Christ killers, Christ killers, Christ killers are going to chop them up and burn their homes. And sometimes there was such a Holocaust type of stuff, sorry to use the word, that they used to run out. And they came to our land, the Muslims' land. And he said, cousins, 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 and he took them in. Because we are the children of the same Ibrahim alayhi salam, of two children, Ismail and Ishaq. Cousins, beings. And then today this is what they do to us. And they make up stories that Muslims are like this and like that. Ask them. But we have got no guts to ask. We don't want to ask. We don't want to know about the Ahlul Kitab. The Quran is full of the stories of Ahlul Kitab. How many of us know what is the difference between us and the Ahlul Kitab? And how did the Ahlul Kitab deviate? And how much trouble they gave to Muhammadur Rasulullah. The Jews gave them, the Christians are giving now. Because the Jews and the Christians, they are the same, they are two blades of the same scissors. They want to cut us into pieces. We don't trust them at all. But amongst them, minhumul mu'minun, amongst the Jews and the Christians, are good and righteous people, but most of them are perverts and transgressors. And those of you who have seen the Passion of the Christ will see that in that film, Mel Gibson exposes the Jews of the time. And we don't call them by dirty names. Go into the Bible. Isa alayhi salam tells the elite and the highest of the Jews, you vipers, you snakes, you whited sepulchres, you adulterous generation. He calls them all these names. But we Muslims say, Ya Bani Israel. We call them by the name that they have. And yet we are their enemies. We are, because we are our own enemies. This is why. We like to fraternize with them, promote them. We can't be bothered. We'll go to Pick and Pay. You will see the calendar if you haven't seen. We put it on the mosque board that they say that they will help in the building of the temple on the Masjid Al-Aqsa. It's there. When Muslims come, it's not that I'm all right, my house is all right, Allah's house, leave it. Then your house will also go. If you have that attitude towards your oppressed brothers and sisters. So now we saw one man, Bilal Shalit, and 1,027 Palestinians were released for one man. And they say, how bad did the people that are around Bilal Shalit's family, how they felt, how they fled. There are over 6,000 prisoners, some of them 15 and 16, in the prisons of Israel. Their mothers and fathers got no feeling. Only the Jews have got feeling. And the whole world believes it. Whole world believes it. Aktharuhumul fasiqun, because most of the world are perverted, transgressors, half-hearted. And as I said, we are our own enemies, and so many Muslim countries are part of it. And if you give them a hand, إِلَّا بِحَبْلٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَحَبْلٍ مِّنَ النَّاسِ, Mubarak, he gave them gas at below cost. He gave the Jews gas below cost. حَبْلٌ مِّنَ النَّاسِ, we give them, Muslims give them. Inshallah, but there are no more gas chambers, because that's where I will put Mubarak for doing that. He deserves free gas. He used to give them gas. So Allah says that, وَضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَسْكَنَةِ, and we have stamped homelessness for them. They are going to be masakin all their lives. That's Israel. You see them fighting all the time, taking over the land, occupying the land. And we got people like Mahmoud Abbas and others who allow all these things, because these guys are worse than the Jews, most of them. If you take Casserils, he's a Jew but not a Zionist. But if you look at Mahmoud Abbas, he's a Muslim but he's a Zionist. And his clique. Because they're all for the Jews in their own way. They all kowtow and bow and are being fed by the Zionists of the world. And they have made them absolutely useless and powerless, and they do whatever they want. But we will see, inshallah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is watching. Inna rabbaka labil mirsad, and your Lord is overwatching over you. And He will see, with us or without us. He's giving us a chance to be involved in the liberation of the Holy House, which was the first Qibla of the Muslims. He wants us to do that, with us or without us. لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ, He will make Islam and Islamic victory prevail over every other way. وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْكَافِرُونَ, and if the kuffar will not like it, وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا, and with or without you, Allah is enough as a witness that He will make Islam prevail, and the victory will be for those who are righteous. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, and the best results and the most successful results are for those who uphold taqwa and are truly Muslims. وصلى الله على النبي الكريم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.